At the same time, the primal chi in the surroundings were quickly pulled in and wrapped around the sword. Its master's ultimate skill. The eyes of the disciples on the sword altar widened. This was the sword skill the sword saint was famous for. The sword heart Gehenna, as the name suggested. It was a skill that formed a huge enclosure where energy converged with the weapon at the center. The gathered energy would ricochet about erratically, and all the enemies within the space would be attacked by the energy blades. It was a powerful multiple-target skill. However, its true destructive power would only be shown when the energy blades converged like reverse spikes into a massive energy blade. This skill seemed like it could split the heavens and the earth. 100 tribulations, insight, BZD, an avatar materialized. The resonance of primal chi resounded across the sword altar. Luo Shirshan's disciples were greatly moved by this scene. They were beside themselves with excitement. The seven-leaf golden lotus spun rapidly. How would Yu Shangrong deal with this now that Luo Shirshan had the support of his intimidating avatar? Everyone's attention shifted toward Yu Shangrong. Yu Shangrong raised his head slightly. He looked at the massive energy blade formed by the sword heart Gehenna. Luo Shirshan spoke in a deep voice. I hope you'll be a worthy opponent. He brought his hands down in a slashing movement. The sword heart Gehenna slashed toward Yu Shangrong as well. It moved so quickly that it seemed to be upon its target in just a blink of an eye. Yu Shangrong seemed to vanish suddenly, leaving afterimages behind. It seemed like Luo Shirshan's ultimate skill, the sword heart Gehenna, had missed. Luo Shirshan frowned slightly. A diversionary tactic? He did not expect Yu Shangrong had cultivated his diversionary tactic to this extent while cultivating his sword skills as well. When the gale stirred up by sword heart Gehenna died down, visibility was restored. Yu Shangrong was still hovering in his original spot with his arms crossed and a smile on his face. He stared at Luo Shirshan. What happened? The disciples were shaken. Impossible. How did he do that? Luo Shirshan was curious as well. However, he was much calmer than his disciples. He looked at Yu Shangrong and asked, Are you planning on staying like that forever? Yu Shangrong had a gentle and faint smile on his face as he stood facing the wind. If I make a move, you won't stand a chance. How arrogant. You misunderstand me. If you understand me, you'd know I was being humble. Enough was enough. Luo Shirshan moved swiftly. He left afterimages everywhere. With the enhancement from his 100 tribulations inside Avatar, his movements were as quick as lightning. This move greatly resembled the Dao invisibility technique. At the same time, energy blades were taking form around the afterimages before they charged toward Yu Shangrong. Yu Shangrong nodded with a faint smile on his face. He seemed pleased by this. The instant the energy wall before Yu Shangrong shattered, he raised his right arm and brandished his sword swiftly. Left, middle, right. 3 figures flickered in the air. It was as if there were overlapping images. Return. Enter 3 souls. His scarlet longevity sword suddenly burst forth with a flash of blinding light that enveloped the surroundings. The space rippled like a wave. Luo Shirshan merely heard a buzzing noise in his ears. His eyes could not catch up with the movements at all. Ever since Yu Shangrong had left the Evil Sky Pavilion, he had challenged countless elites from various backgrounds with his sword and had never lost a single match. Whether it was Chun Wenjie, one of the 3 sword freaks, or a 6 and 7 leaf elite of the Noble Path, all his opponents died under his sword. For this reason, he rose to 5th place on the blacklist. If he was not a lone wolf and preferred to be free, he would have risen higher on the blacklist. Nobody knew how profound Yu Shangrong's cultivation base was. Rumor had it that his cultivation base was on par with the Evil Sky Pavilion's first disciple, Yu Jinghai. The 2 of them had joined the Evil Sky Pavilion early on and became Ji Qindao's prize students. They inherited Ji Qindao's mantle and were rumored to have surpassed their master. Yu Shangrong shot to fame after the battle at Great Yan's provisional capital in Upper Prime City. This skill, Return, Enter 3 souls, was a sword skill he was famous for. The abstract and the real overlapped as he moved swiftly. Luo Shirshan's vision began to blur. He felt as though he was in a dream. Alas, The environment created by Luo Shirshan's sword Heart Gehenna had created the best condition for his opponent to unleash his skill. If an elite did not make a move, everything would be fine. However, once an elite made a move, the outcome would be apparent. Luo Shirshan's eyes widened. He instinctively recalled his 100 tribulations inside Avatar and retreated as far as he could. However, 3 figures suddenly approached him from the left, right, and center. The scarlet sword gleamed as it cut through the massive energy blade and continued on its momentum. The 3 figures joined as one. When the massive energy blade was sliced open by the scarlet sword, bam! The peak Earth-grade weapon was broken into 2 by the longevity sword. Yu Shangrong's right arm was straight as he thrust the sword forward in just a flash. At the same time, the fragment of the energy blade froze in the air like glass before shattering. The sounds of the battle stopped abruptly. The duration of the battle was barely enough for a pot of tea to cool down. The outcome of the battle was clear. The disciples on the sword altar held their breaths. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. The disciples seemed to be having difficulty keeping up with the pace of the battle. They shifted their gazes toward their master, Sword Saint Luo Shirshan. Luo Shirshan's eyes widened as he stared at the scarlet sword before him. The tip of the sword was on his forehead. However, it did not pierce him. Such was Yu Shangrong's control over sword. It was so precise. With just the slightest force, he could take Sword Saint Luo Shirshan's life away. As for why Yu Shangrong did not do that, no one knew why. Luo Shirshan looked at the smiling Yu Shangrong in fear. The difference between our strength is too great. He did not understand this, and he could not understand. They were in completely different leagues. The great Sword Saint Luo Shirshan could not even withstand a single blow from the Sword Devil. If the world were to know about this, how would they rank his strength? A saint was addressed as such because he or she had abilities that surpass that of ordinary people. Under Great Yan skies, those who bore the title of a saint were, without exception, grand masters in their own right. Sword Saint was the highest praise Luo Shirshan could receive with his sword skills. Even his eldest brother, Luo Chongqing, one of the 3 sword freaks, was not given this honor. And yet, the Sword Saint was defeated by the Sword Devil with just a single move. This was a huge mental blow to Luo Shirshan. How was he supposed to live with this? After long silence, Luo Shirshan finally asked, "Why aren't you killing me?" Everybody knew about Sword Devil's principles. He would kill those he had said he would kill. It did not matter where his target was. He would pursue them to the end of the earth. However, this time he did not stain his sword with blood. Yu Shangrong loosened his grip. The longevity sword rose higher into the air and returned to its scabbard. If I had followed through, you would have been another soul who lost his life under my blade. But Yu Shangrong's tone was gentle and soft as he said, "I'll make an exception and spare your life." Exception? Luo Shirshan did not understand what Yu Shangrong meant. The disciples on the altar were dumbstruck. The master whom they had respected the most was defeated with a single move. How could they not feel shocked? They sat limply on the ground as their knees gave way. Due to the distance, all they could see was Yu Shangrong hovering before their master with his arms crossed as though they were 2 friends having a conversation. They could not hear what was being said. Luo Shirshan asked in confusion, "What then?" "You have 2 choices," Yu Shangrong said. 1. Exchange your life for a sable magnolia. 2. You have the right to reject the first option, and I'll kill you in 3 days. I always respect my opponent's choices. Yu Shangrong's words sounded reasonable, but Luo Shirshan could not help but feel something was wrong with it. He frowned slightly. Sable magnolias are precious items. Even those with their Dantian Sea of Qi destroyed can restore it with this item. What need does the great Sword Devil have for it? Yu Shangrong's cultivation base and strength had been proven. Luo Shirshan felt that Yu Shangrong merely wanted the sable magnolia as a precautionary measure, so that he could use it to save his own life if he was injured while fighting against a powerful opponent. Yu Shangrong smiled and said, "You've misunderstood. Oh, I have a little junior sister. Her name's Xia Yuaner. She's pure, innocent, and gentle toward others. The sable magnolia is for her." Yu Shangrong turned to look in the direction of the evil sky pavilion. The sun's rays penetrated the rising mist and the sea of clouds. They were refracted into a rainbow-colored light that shone on Yu Shangrong's slender and straight back. Little junior sister, see I you honor, gentle. There's something that I don't understand, Luo Shirshan said. Please say it. Yu Shangrong's tone remained gentle. Since you've left the evil sky pavilion, you're no longer one of its disciples. Why are you still helping her? Help. Yu Shangrong shook his head slightly and said with a faint smile, Luo Shirsen, what does it have to do with you whether I help her or not? Luo Shirsen was stunned. He could not come up with a response. True, who am I to dictate what he should or shouldn't do? Moreover, he had lost him. We don't know each other, and yet, from this battle, I can tell you're not a person who commits heinous crimes for no reason. Why do you choose to be a great villain who's scorned by everyone? Luo Shirsen was puzzled. Yu Shangrong's expression remained calm as he asked, Are you trying to convert me? Luo Shirsen felt awkward. I remember the last person who said such words to me was Kong Ming, Yu Shangrong said. Kong Ming? The Temple of Great Emptiness's Kong Ming. Luo Shirsen was shocked. It was said that the Temple of Great Emptiness's Kong Ming had died under the hands of the evil sky pavilion's fifth disciple, Zhou Yu. He did not expect that the true perpetrator was the sword devil, Yu Shangrong. However, that made sense. Kong Ming was an elite of the Temple of Great Emptiness. Zhou Yu would never be able to kill Kong Ming with her strength and cultivation base. However, those were no longer important, no matter who the killer was. The world had put the blame on the evil sky pavilion. Yu Shangrong continued, Do not follow in Kong Ming's footsteps. Luo Shirsen wanted to say something but thought better of it. Could he convert this man? If the Temple of Great Emptiness's Kong Ming had tried to convert him and failed, he was certain that his words would not have any effect on Yu Shangrong. Luo Shirsen looked at the man before himself. He found it hard to imagine that he was the sword devil. Yu Shangrong walked away on air with his arms crossed at a pace that was neither fast nor slow. I've always stood by my principles and have never made an exception. Since I'm making one now, you should cherish it. Farewell. Yu Shangrong turned to glance at the disciples on the sword altar and nodded at them perfunctorily with a faint smile on his face. His body flashed away, and in just a blink of an eye, he was already 100 feet away. In the next second, he passed through the altar's barriers and vanished. Luo Shirsen felt the pressure lift from his shoulders. He quickly descended. As soon as he descended, he staggered slightly. Master! Two of Luo Shirshan's disciples ran up to him to support him. Luo Shirsen calmed himself down before saying, Notify the elders that I've changed my mind. Ding Fanqiu is a core disciple of the Yun sect. The sable magnolia is but an object. A man's life is worth much more. Agreed in exchange. Understood. In a pavilion among the mountains that was several miles away from the sword altar, Si Weia looked in the direction of the sword altar and said with a smile, Second senior brother, you made an exception for little junior sister. What a surprise. Yu Shangrong leaned on one of the pavilion's posts and said, Little junior sister has extraordinary talents. It'd be a waste if she couldn't open her sea of qi. Rules are made by humans, and the decision of men trumps the heavens. I heard that the Yun sect has refused to trade its sable magnolia with the evil sky pavilion. Now that you've added oil to the fire, second senior brother, there will be two kinds of outcomes. Si Weia said confidently. One, the Yun sect will be driven into a corner and start a fight with the evil sky pavilion. Two, the Yun sect will submit and agree to the exchange. Second senior brother, aren't you worried the Yun sect will choose the first option? Old seventh, I know that you're intelligent. You should understand the most basic reason in this world. Yu Shangrong said with a smile. Do enlighten me, second senior brother. If they're unwilling to submit, just clobber them. Yu Shangrong shook his head after he said this. However, I don't really like to resort to violence. When Si Weia heard this, he cupped his fist and said, One statement from you is better than 10 years' worth of studies, second senior brother. Keep an eye on the Yun sect for me, Yu Shangrong said. Don't worry, second senior brother. I'll have to trouble you then. You're being too polite, senior brother. See, Weah bowed and cupped his fists. When he looked up, Yu Shangrong's words were still ringing in his ears, but Yu Shangrong's figure had vanished. He said with a smile, I hope that little junior sister is truly as innocent and pure as my senior brothers think. Otherwise, their efforts will be wasted. The next day, in the Evil Sky Pavilion's Great Hall, the disciples stood in a line on each side. Zhou was still thinking of a way to negotiate with the Yun sect and obtain the Sable Magnolia. The Yun sect's 8 altars were full of experts. The current Evil Sky Pavilion was not what it once was. If it had its first and second disciples, it would be unstoppable no matter where they went in Great Yen. Currently, while Wu Dao was its strongest member, Fan Xiuwen was still recuperating. Yi Qianxin was reforming her Dantianxi of Qi, and she did not even count as an Evil Sky Pavilion's disciple. Zhou Yu had only recovered half of her cultivation base, and she had yet to enter the nascent divinity tribulation realm. Therefore, it would not be wise to deal with the Yun sect using force. How about stealing? The unrealistic idea surfaced in Lu Zhou's mind. At this moment, a voice rang from outside. Elder Hua is here. Outside the great hall, Hua Wu Dao seemed to be filled with vigor. There even seemed to be a spring in his step. When he walked in, he cupped his fists at Lu Zhou. Pavilion Master, the Yun sect has written back. They've agreed to trade their Sable Magnolia for Ding Fanqiu. Their special envoy is heading here as we speak, he said. Lu Zhou's heart fluttered slightly. However, his wizened face looked calm as he said, They've changed their mind? Well, Hua Wu Dao did not know why the Yun sect suddenly changed its mind. He was once from the Yun sect, so he knew how difficult it was for the 7 altars to reach a consensus. It was reasonable for the Yun sect to refuse the Evil Sky Pavilion's demand for a Sable Magnolia. Their sudden change was truly a surprise. However, that was not important. Since they agreed to make the exchange, it was for the best. Pavilion Master, since the Yun sect has agreed to the terms, why don't we seize this opportunity to improve our relationships? Although the Evil Sky Pavilion is powerful, it has too many enemies. When you, in the future, Pavilion Master, Hua Wu Dao paused. He wanted to mention the 10 years limit, but he felt that it would be inappropriate. He continued, having another ally is always better than another foe. Lu Zhou glanced at him. Elder Hua, it's good that you have such sentiments. However, the Evil Sky Pavilion has no need for such an ally, he said indifferently. In the future, we'll leave tomorrow's trouble for tomorrow. Lu Zhou sounded confident as he said, I have time on my hands. Hua Wu Dao no longer dared to say anything else. Perhaps he was still new to the Evil Sky Pavilion. His style was not compatible with the Evil Sky Pavilion's style yet. However, there was no rushing these things. He decided to take it slowly. At the very least, he could accept the way things were done in the Evil Sky Pavilion up until now. Pavilion Master, even if the Yun sect is willing to trade their Sable Magnolia, 1 Magnolia is still not enough to open up a person's sea of Qi, Hua Wu Dao pointed out. Lu Zhou nodded and said, Do you know how many Sable Magnolias there are? Hua Wu Dao said, From what I know, there are 5. There's 1 in the Yun sect. The second one is in the hands of the Duanlin branch southwest of Great Yen. The third one is in Rongbei. The 4th one is in the Heaven Choice Temple. And the 5th one, well, I don't know where it is. Hua Wu Dao's words were in line with Lu Zhou's knowledge. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, In your opinion, from whom should I obtain the second Magnolia from? The Duanlin branch is far away in the southwest. Rongbei is beyond Great Yen, so only the Heaven Choice Temple is left, Hua Wu Dao said. The Heaven Choice Temple is on good terms with the Temple of Great Emptiness. They're both Buddhist temples. The Buddhist temples never involve themselves in the conflicts between the noble and fiend paths. If they're open to negotiations, we can try to negotiate with them. Hua Wu Dao's words seemed reasonable enough. At this moment, Mingshi Yin, who had remained silent at the side for a long time, said, Master, I have a plan. What is it? Old Eighth has always been on good terms with the Heaven Choice Temple. We can send him to negotiate with them. Mingshi Yi said, Good terms. after Old Eighth has left the Evil Sky Pavilion. He has made great effort to get onto the Heaven Choice Temple's good books in order to obtain a method to save his own life. The Zen tunic he's wearing is from the Heaven Choice Temple, Mingshi Yin said. Bring him here, Zhou said. Yes, master. Mingshi Yin eagerly ran to fetch Zhu Honggong. In no time at all, Mingshi Yin was leading a puzzled Zhu Honggong into the Great Hall. Zhu Honggong had lost some weight over the past month. When he returned to the Great Hall, he still felt nervous. He was behaving even worse than a newcomer. His eyes kept darting around everywhere. He fell to his knees and said reverently, Greetings, master. May you live to see 1,000 autumns and 10,000 generations. May you live forever and ever. Mingshi Yin frowned. This pig is really stealing my spotlight. Zhou said, Old Eighth, since you were tricked into committing your sins, I'm now giving you a chance to redeem yourself. When Zhu Honggong heard this, he was overjoyed. He said, I'm willing to redeem myself. I won't even frown if I have to climb a mountain of blades, plunge into a sea of fire, or walk with knives on my sides. Very good, Zhou said. I hereby choose you to bring back the sable magnolia from the Heaven Choice Temple. Zhu Honggong was puzzled. Heaven Choice Temple? He was momentarily stunned. A bitter expression appeared on his face, but he did not dare to oppose his master. When Zhou saw the reluctance on Zhu Honggong's face, he asked, What? You're unwilling? No. I'm willing. I'll surely return with the sable magnolia. Zhu Honggong pulled a long face and spoke with zero sincerity. Mingshi Yin said with a smile, Hurry up then. It shouldn't be a problem for you, judging by your relationship with them. Believe me, we won't put you in harm's way. Remember, you're only there to negotiate. Send word to us if anything happens. I'll head out right away. Zhu Honggong nodded and bowed. He walked backward out of the Great Hall. Zhou looked at him, leaving until he was out of sight, before saying, When will the Yun Sect Special Envoy arrive? In 6 hours. Zhu Honggong descended the mountain as soon as he received his order. Although he was reluctant to visit the Heaven Choice Temple, he did not dare to defy his master's orders. He had no choice but to agree to it. Moreover, this was a good chance for him to redeem himself. As he walked, he began to think of how he would negotiate with the Heaven Choice Temple. While Zhu Honggong was lost in thoughts, Pan Zhong suddenly appeared out of nowhere with an ingratiating smile on his face. Me, Mr. Eighth? Who is it? It's me, Pan Zhong. Pan Zhong appeared before Zhu Honggong. When he saw Pan Zhong, Zhu Honggong said irritably, Get lost. I'm not done with you for what happened the other day. Please, Mr. Eighth, I'm sure you won't hold this against me, since you're magnanimous beyond measure. From a single glance, I can tell that you're different from the others, Mr. Eighth. There's no way that you'd hold a grudge just because of a few words. Pan Zhong said, Save your flattery. I won't fall for it. Zhu Honggong said, Mr. Eighth, you've wrongly accused me. If speaking the truth is considered as flattery, am I supposed to lie to you whenever I see you? Pan Zhong said, That's more like it. Say it, what's on your mind. Pan Zhong said with a smile, Mr. Fourth has said that he would put in a good word or two for you to the pavilion master. All you have to do is to head to the Heaven Choice Temple. Mr. Fourth will hold the fort in the Evil Sky Pavilion. Zhu Honggong sighed and said, Fourth's senior brother is the only one who treats me well. Of course. Get out of my way. Don't you think I'll forgive you just because you said a few nice words to me? Of course. Zhu Honggong walked onto higher ground and glanced at Pan Zhong. When I was cultivating in the Evil Sky Pavilion, there was no place for people like you, he said haughtily. With a tap of his feet, he propelled himself forward. Swoosh! Upon seeing this, one might think Zhu Honggong was about to unleash an impressive movement skill. However, he took a nosedive and fell. Crash! Zhu Honggong fell down the slopes. His squeals resounded throughout the mountain. Pan Zhong covered his face with his hand. Drat! I've forgotten what I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to unseal Mr. Eight's cultivation base.